Hello, welcome to the Lately in PHP podcast. This is episode 55, and we are here recording still from the cold. Well, at least me from the cold, because I have here, as always, Artur Sasins from Latvia, and the cold is something every day he gets cold where he is, at least in the winter, right? Hello, Artur.
Hello. Yeah, cold is something that I know, but I can't imagine you being in a scarf in the house in Portugal. Yeah, right?
Yes, exactly. And well, for me, this is cold because nowadays I'm more like a Brazilian because I'm not used with so much cold because I haven't been living here. And exactly tomorrow I'm going to return to Brazil, and I was warned that there is an hell over there in terms of heat. The weather is very hot.
Oh,
So it will be a total inversion of weather. But okay, we are here to talk about PHP. We have many interesting topics to talk about, and we are going to start exactly from the latest PHP releases. Okay, let's share the screen here. As usual, we had the releases for the three last versions that are being maintained for PHP 5.4.36, which is mainly fixes
secure.
about security, exactly, because this is a release that is being maintained uh, as just for security updates. Now, for PHP 5.5 and 5.6, it was 5.520 and then 5.64. These are uh, releases that are being maintained. They have some security bugs are also fixed, but they also had other fixes for bugs that are not security related. Uh, well, well, I do not see anything really worth mentioning because these releases are just maintenance releases. No new features seem to be added. Let me just double check here about it. Just bug fixes and well, there are some feature requests here, but they don't look like they are very important. Well, at least the way I see it. So, well, I guess anything else you'd like to comment, Arthur? Maybe we could move on to the next topic.
Yeah, probably nothing much to comment here.
Yeah. Well, the next topic, we are going to start talking about one regular initiative that is organized by the PHP classes site, but is interesting for the whole PHP community because it talks about the trends of the PHP community in the last year, what PHP developers have been looking for. So this is the PHP Zeitgeist initiative, which consists of gathering statistics about the keywords that are being searched on the PHP classes site. Obviously, the PHP classes site is visited only by a fraction of the PHP community. It's not exactly all the PHP developers go there. Many developers go there. It's still a sample of the whole PHP community, but it is interesting just to analyze what are the trends in terms of what the PHP developers have been searching for the past year. So this initiative works first gathering the statistics of top search items, search keywords that were entered in a PHP class search page. Then it builds a ranking, and it takes out the keywords that were not ranked in the top thousands in the past year, and from those keywords it just gathers like the first one, and well, the first 100. So let's take a look. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I did not notice that the power was not plugged, and usually it sends me some warning, but I was not seeing it. Okay, let's restart here. Uh, okay, so uh, as we may see in the PHP Zeitgeist page, uh, where you can see all the rankings for the last 15 years, starting from the year 2000. We can see the ranking here with all the top Zeitgeist keywords. These are not the top searched keywords. These are just the new keywords that were not present in the past year. And you can see like 100 of them. These are very diversified keywords. So in this article, wait, in this article, I have gathered these topics. I mean, these keywords by topics, and I could find a pattern like 8 topics have that I could group these keywords. The first one was basically API and web services, which uh, seems to be something very interesting for many PHP developers, especially those that are developing, uh, mobile applications that require APIs. On the other hand, there is also interest to call other site web services using their APIs, and then you can see lots of keywords of related with those APIs. So this is probably the most important topic because it had many related keywords. And then there comes the topic about databases. Database access seem to have been also very continue to have a great interest, especially those related with MySQL and PDO, because MySQL extension is being deprecated and discontinued. So in the future PHP versions, developers will not have access to the old MySQL extension, so they need to update their code to move on to MySQL and PDO. Security also continues to be a very important topic, and this is great because sometimes there are other developers of other languages that complain that PHP is not being the PHP community is not very concerned with security, which is totally wrong. There are some developers that are not so much security aware, but the PHP community as a whole is very interested and concerned with security matters, as you can see by many of the, the keywords that become relevant, more relevant in 2014. And then there are other topics with less interest, but still high interest, like file manipulation and format conversion, which is always a topic of great interest, especially to manipulate documents generated by Microsoft Office and others. And then the topic about frameworks, new frameworks, is also interesting. In particular, I noticed a great interest on frameworks about JavaScript, like Angular, because it seems that those frameworks are being used more and more by by um, by mobile application developers, and that is very interesting.
Well, it's interesting because AngularJS is like a JavaScript framework. So why would people actually look for it in PHP classes?
Yeah, I think because they are looking with some special integration, because AngularJS will only do the browser side end, and maybe they are looking for something that can help them, and it's not just one keyword. They can see here Angular,
Yeah.
and then AngularJS.
Oh,
Uh,
it's probably the same, meant the same, but yeah. Interesting that AngularJS is actually used to create a single-page web apps. So yeah, they're probably
yeah,
looking
right.
for additional framework to allow them retrieve
Yeah,
images,
that's true.
refresh
Yeah,
them.
I don't know if it would make, since I have not been using hybrid application development, I don't know if they will also use them for developing those types of mobile applications. What is your experience? Could AngularJS be used for in that context, or maybe some other libraries would be more appropriate?
I have not worked with AngularJS specifically. I've been using Backbone.js, which seems to be doing similar stuff but in a different approach. And yeah, basically what they would require is an API that allows you to fetch data from uh, database or any other storage and display it. basically through AJAX requests. Or
Yeah,
some kind of integration there.
right. Well, one way or the other, you need to do the server-side integration because um, uh, well, the web application only has to the client side and the server side end. And I don't know if developers are looking for something specific to take advantage with Angular because since it's all Ajax, uh, maybe maybe it's not just Angular. Anyway, this is just a reminder for the fact that uh, other JavaScript frameworks, you mentioned Backbone, but could be jQuery or some other, do not appear here because they did not become relevant this year. They were already relevant in past years. So the PHP Zeitgeist only denotes interests for that became relevant in the past year. In the previous years, they may not have been as relevant or were not relevant at all. So that's because I remember that AngularJS is not exactly new. It's maybe just it's trending this year more than the previous years. Okay, well, continuing, there is also the topic related with e-commerce and business matters, with just a few new interesting uh, topics. Uh, and then there are two final topics that I like to highlight because they were not trending in the past year. One is related with hardware. So we can see that um, uh, some keywords like Raspberry, IBEX, I think it is related to USB, if I'm not mistaken, and then PHP printer. Well, these are all different types of hardware. Other types of hardware-related keywords also featured in previous years, but these seem to become trending more this year than in previous years.
Yeah, it's
And
interesting.
then, yeah, maybe because all these interesting drones and other autonomous devices and robots and everything, um, now developers are more interested about this. Maybe they want to run PHP on Raspberry Pi devices. I don't know. Maybe that's why they are being searched here. Then finally, there is one topic that is related with PHP installers in general and mainly Composer. Well, Composer is not exactly new, but at least in PHP Classic Site it become more visible because in 2013 uh, Composer PHP classes had support to install packages. Uh, uh, so PHP classes act as a Composer repository. And then later in 2014 there was support being added to Composer to import packages from private repositories with some automation to enter any passwords. So this become very made the Composer even more useful. So well, this is all to mention that PHP installers in general are a topic of great interest from PHP developers. And this just confirms there is this trend to among PHP developers to get more and more interest about this. Well, other than that, I don't know, Arthur, if you have any other comments you'd like to make.
No, that's actually seem quite distinctive and interesting groups. I would say that maybe hardware group misses uh, keyword Arduino, but I don't know if it's even possible to integrate something with PHP
Yeah,
with the web service or something like that.
yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I didn't look, but maybe Arduino was already a topic in the previous years, a training topic in previous years. You can let me take a look. Arduino. Uh, yeah, exactly. Last year Arduino was a training topic,
Yeah, so
so it
basically,
makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah, so it's not that Arduino is not a trending topic in 2014. It's just it's not a new trending topic. That's what the PHP Zeitgeist initiative tends to highlight. But okay, well, about this, the only thing that I would like to mention is that the PHP Zeitgeist initiative is always useful to help developers that are looking for ideas to implement innovative components because they can look at these trending keywords which reflect the fact that there are many users looking for them. And if there is no package for some of these purposes, they can get ideas for innovative packages. So that's basically it. So given this, we are going to move on to the next topic, which is something that has been having a great discussion in December, but already in January the discussion continues, which is related with the proposal to have PHP 5, a PHP 5.7 release before PHP 7. Uh, there was a proposal for this before, but now there was an issue, a final proposal for this new release was issued in December. There was a great discussion, and there was already a vote um, to to uh, have this PHP 5.7 release with some improvements that probably would still be consolidated in PHP 7, but the proposal was practically rejected by now. And so this means that unless something somewhat unexpected happens, there will be no PHP 5.7, despite there was this proposal. And actually talk about this proposal for this intermediate version uh, like a few months ago. I think it was September or something. But since it was rejected, uh, um, there will be not a PHP 5.7 release, which means that the next major release will be PHP 7. So all the proposals that targeted PHP 5.7 will only make it to PHP in PHP 7. Well, there have been lots of discussions about why this happened. Well, I'm not sure if we got it right, but I think they were somehow concerned with PHP 7 being delayed further, because then they do have more intermediate versions to maintain and more work for the developers working on those features. So the features that will now move on to PHP 7 only will give developers less work to maintain the dumps. So I guess that's the reason why they rejected this proposal. And it's okay just to update whoever is concerned about these versions and was not aware that the PHP 5.7 will not happen after all. Okay, I don't know, Arthur, if you have anything else to comment.
oh, yeah, as you said, if I would be a PHP core developer, I would probably want to skip also as many versions as possible of
Yeah,
on the new version and not maintaining any versions anymore because we already have PHP 5.5, 5.4 for security fixes to maintain, and that would
Yeah.
take time.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to jump directly to PHP 5 point, PHP 7, although that is a major release, probably with much more backwards and compatible changes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, let's wait and see if that will be a better solution or probably for users will give more problems because, major releases, users tend to not jump on that bandwagon, at least right away. Often they wait some time to see how much backwards incompatible changes will break their code. So, okay, let's wait and see. I think the schedule for PHP 7 still maintained. It's being targeted, if not mistaken, to October 2015. There's still plenty of time to implement plenty of the remaining work that needs to be done. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic, which is about some new proposals. Some are formalized, others are not. Mm, Let's start first with this one about comparison chain. So this is not really a formal proposal, or at least I did not find an RFC for this. And the idea is to allow to have expressions like this that allow to have conditions in if statements or others that evaluate conditions that can, for instance, evaluate if a variable is within a certain range, which in practice would translate to two comparisons. But it would be look more elegant, at least I think, in my own point of view, that you can just tell PHP to evaluate if these two conditions are true, and it's also saying the it would also be possible to have multiple variables being compared in a single expression, but I don't know. This did not have much discussion. There is no RFC so far that I have noticed, but maybe I've missed something. Arthur, so what do you think about this proposal?
I don't know. I think it's just a sugar syntax, and my processor right here can better process boolean expressions and operations like and or either than working like that in the intervals. So
Yeah.
I don't really see how it's that. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, it wouldn't allow you to do anything that you could not do before. It's just syntactic sugar, and you look at it probably more like you look at those expressions in your math classes. Uh,
Exactly. It's more
yeah,
human maybe, but
yeah,
I don't even remember any time that I would have to do such interval comparison or something like that.
yeah. Okay, now moving on to another proposal. This one is about null safe calls. Because if for some reason you have a chain of calls in a Fluent, some class that you have provides a Fluent interface that you call a function and it performs some action and it returns the object itself, so you can pass that object to the next function call that is chained. So the idea here is to allow null to be passed as objects. So they have this question mark arrow operator that you could use in your expressions. I'm trying to look at it. So it would look more or less like this. And I'm not sure. No, here is a better example. And if you put a question mark here, it would allow the object to be null. And if the object is null, nothing would happen. It just return a null, because that's what the object is. And this would avoid the case of having the language throw an exception for calling a function on a null object. Well, I don't know if this is already being voted. No, I don't think so. But well, this is the proposal. I'm not sure. Well, I cannot give a personal opinion on this because I don't. It's not my style of programming of using chain method calls. This is a trend that started a few years ago. Uh, I don't know. I don't know if for those that apply it, it would be useful. Arthur, what do you think about this proposal?
Oh, I can't remember what was the language. Once I used the language which treated null or like new as an object. So basically, it was safe to return it because any method could be called upon it and it would not crash. And it was an interesting approach to make it. So that really made some things easier. In this case, it would be something the same, only if the object is null, it's automatically returning null instead of calling the method at all. So that's there's that. But for example, if you look at JavaScript, which I think is the language, especially with jQuery, is the king of chains, that you can chain a lot of things there. And I think how jQuery looks at this approach is that even if you query some kind of DOM element and it doesn't exist, it does not return you new, it returns a jQuery object, which is empty, but still an object which can be changed further. So that would be
Yeah,
another approach. But yeah, like you, I probably did not have a need for something like that in PHP. If many folks need it, then yeah, this request would be interesting. But what I would want to point out is actually the first time that I see something like that is that, let me find it, where it was. They are referencing, I think they were, oh no, that was something. Okay, either way, basically, I think that would be really hard to implement something like that, and I don't know if it would pass or not. Yeah, okay, I can't mention here, but I remember right something about that it would be quite difficult to implement it because it would not resolve to a ternary operator or something like that, and it would be inside the optimized code.
yeah,
Don't see if that would bring more advantage than it is.
yeah. Well, there are always complications when trying to implement things like this. Well, I do not see this as a really important feature. It just seems to be yet another of those features that will pile up, but
Here is an
probably only a few developers will benefit from it.
Here is an interesting point. In prior art, it says hack has already implemented a proposal identical to the so it
Oh, I see.
hack. So yeah, that's what I found that it is quite interesting. It's a first instance of referencing to a hack feature in RFC. So at least that I see.
Yeah. So they are basically playing catch up on features with hack. As I mentioned before, the Facebook hack language is the greatest competitor of PHP, which is still almost PHP, but okay. Okay, now moving on to another feature being proposed by Guilherme Blanco from well, is proposing something that I think is somewhat inspired in Java language and other languages, which is to have a package level for determining the access protection to functions and variables. The idea here is to let me share the screen here so we can look more at the message. The idea is to have a variable, classes inside a certain namespace that they would not be visible to other classes or calling code outside that namespace. And this makes sense because sometimes you only want to have utility classes that are just for the purposes of those packages that are declared inside a certain namespace. I think this makes sense. It probably would help organizing better your code, but I've seen several people complaining that implementing this in PHP will bring a lot of complication, difficulties to maintain, and well, I don't know. Anyway, I only see a pull request. I did not see RFC, unless this is an old proposal. Yeah, well, this it says here that an RFC will be created together with voting once I'm able to gather some considerations. But there is already a pull request to implement this. So, well, I think the RFC should appear now. But this way, I'm afraid this proposal will not go far. I don't know, Arthur, what do you think? Did you get the same idea?
Well, I don't know. I don't really see maybe much use for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you have a library, if you try to wrap in a class, that maybe you have some other functionality that you use a utility class or you use a structure as a class, and then you might want to keep it private for some reason, mostly not to pollute the scope, but here you go, you have a namespace, so you don't really pollute it. And limiting it so others won't be able to use it, I think is not really needed. Maybe if they
Yeah.
treat it in your library, then they could treat it. So you mentioned that something like this comes from Java, for example. Yes, in Java there is a logic for private classes and public classes, but I think it comes due to the limitation of Java's namespace, because the package names and namespace always related to a file structure. So how file is named, then your public class should be named the same, and all other classes in the file should be private. They can't be exposed due to this file structure and namespace limitation. So there is a specific case why this is there, not because if it's nice to have feature.
Yeah, yes, I think so. I really don't, well, having those access protection levels, private and public, and what is the equivalent of friend classes or something? Well, it doesn't matter. What matters is that if you use this in PHP, it will help preventing the inadvertent uses accesses to to classes and objects, variables, and functions that were not intended to be exposed outside a certain scope. The idea is to sort of implement a package level scope that is defined by a namespace. But I really don't see many cases on this. It would be really essential to have. So given the sort of lack of acceptance of this proposal for now, probably it will not go any far. Well, that's my opinion for now. Okay, moving on to the next topic. Let me share the screen here. And on. Okay. There is this proposal to have case-sensitive symbols in PHP 7. And this is yet one of those proposals that aim to make PHP more like uh, other languages that on which variables and functions are, I mean, their names are case sensitive, and if you use a different case, you refer to a different variable. I'm not really sure if this is useful. It will break the compatibility of, um, of I mean, the code that runs in PHP. So far, I know that many people, for being able to put function cases, sorry, in other case insensitive way, they would like they will have code that will break in the future if they implement this feature. So I don't think this will go very far. What do you think, Arthur?
Well, if we are talking about PHP 7, that would not be the only feature that would break compatibility. Uh, but from my point of view, I don't know, maybe it's some kind of OCD or something like that, but I think I'm keeping all my function and class names in the same case, and I just can't use them in different cases. I don't know, it breaks me inside. So if even if this feature would pass, I probably would not have any problem with it. So I don't mind it. I'm mostly sure that most of my code will work either way.
Sorry, I muted myself. I was asking if you think that you always in your code you always use the same case conventions and it will not break any parts of your code if this case sensitive proposal would pass?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
basically sure about it because I don't know. I just even when looking at somebody else's code, I just can't stand when I see that they define this function or in one way and then use it in the other case. I don't understand why.
Yeah. And what about the code of of I mean code that calls the core PHP functions, because at certain points the documentation used to show certain case conventions and then others, and people looking at it you'd use the same conventions in the documentation, but when it changed they also changed, or they would prefer some other convention of their own and not, and probably have mixed case conventions in their own code that would work, but with this proposal it would not work anymore.
Well,
Do you still have, would you still have code that like that?
I think all the PHP internal functions I use only lowercase, as that was the
Yeah.
convention, lowercase and underscore between the words.
Yeah, I mean, not in your code, but the code that calls the core PHP function. You always use the same case conventions, or did you always have used the same conventions over time?
Yeah, I think I've always used the, as I said, lowercase underscore separator.
Yeah.
I see it mostly in the PHP documentation used now.
Yeah. Well, I think this proposal will not pass, so probably it is not even an interesting discussion. And so we are going to move on to one final topic among these regular topics of interest of things that happen in PHP community, which is related with an article that is not exactly new. Let's see if we can. I think it is November. Okay, let me share the screen here instead of just talking. Well, this is about a PHP denial of service attack implemented at the level of JSON data structures. JSON is nowadays being used by many, I would say, many web services to take requests. And in this article here, it mentions that if you have a JSON object,
I think JSON is used as an example, but this vulnerability will probably work on anything that uses hash table. So if serialization uses hash table, it would also probably work on it. And what it actually does, it provides the worst case of the hashing that it has. That's why it consumes lots of CPU cycles to work on it, and basically hangs, freezes your computer server.
yes, I was looking here because I was trying to see what is the a more clear example of the problem. Well, basically, in the past, there was already this problem regarding the request parameters. If you an attacker could craft a security attack based on special keys for an associative array that would make it collide in the implementation of the hash tables that store those keys. There were some measures implemented, I think, in PHP 5.3.9, or well, it was about that version number. One, and that would allow to limit the number of keys that an array could have. However, this time, despite the problem of the key collision is the same, because it pertains to the way that hash tables are stored by PHP, this would attack JSON decode function. And in JSON decode, I don't know if it would make sense to limit this to 1,000 entries of the array. So I think this can be a problem that could sort of, if not halt your server, at least make it very, very slow. And looking at the discussions of this topic, let me see the exact message. There was, I think it was Pierre Joy that mentioned this. Yes, the issue has been reported on the security at php.net list, which is being discussed and analyzed. But this is a private mailing list that is only accessed for a few members of the PHP core team, and they are still analyzing and discussing an eventual solution for this problem. Personally, I don't know if there can be a solution that probably will get in the way, at least to which certain APIs work, because they can take a very large number of array elements, and this could cause the eventual collision of parameters that could make your server work very slow. I think this is the problem that they are trying to figure a solution. Maybe if they implement maybe an option, a parameter that limits the number of entries that a JSON encoded object could take, it would solve for now, but the application developer would have to set that parameter accordingly to their needs, or else they could experience some odd errors. I don't know.
That would not solve the root of the problem, and something again other would come up that uses the same hash table. So it's really hard to come up with anything because it doesn't matter what hashing algorithm you are using. If people are know what it is, you can like find special keys to make the collision. So either you would have to apply some kind of salt to each request, random salt, that would
Yeah,
probably have impact on performance.
yeah,
But at least you would not have the predefined keys to attack. You would have to randomly try to find them, which would be kind of impossible. And the other would be to use um, some other algorithm to process this serialization.
yeah. Well, I don't know. The way I see it, what they could do is to have a parameter that applications could configure, maybe even configure at the right time. So when you call JSON decode function, if it finds an object that has a very high number of uh, elements, it would just fail JSON decode, and then your application would have to handle the failure of JSON decode, like returning false or null or whatever is the the a more appropriate value, and then your application would treat it as if some web service call just sent some invalid parameters. It's better than having JSON decode to all the be well, take your server down, like making it very slow and suck the whole CPU. Well, that's the way I see it would be better than having what we have now. Basically, we are saying that practically all PHP servers are vulnerable to this eventual attack if they take JSON decode parameters supplied from user data, from uh, requests, from eventual web service calls. I don't know. I don't know if what you mentioned was contemplating this possibility.
Um, with JSON, it could be also kind of the JSON API in PHP. I don't know, very hard maybe to really use because JSON decode probably would not actually provide any error, and you would have to call specific function JSON errors to actually
Yeah,
with the status code. So uh, yeah, either way you need to use it, you need to check it. Uh,
yeah.
but that would be probably again another modification for the code because it will be had a new error status to compare with or something like that. You know.
Yes, well, the way I see it, this is can be serious to many
Yeah.
PHP-based web services. Probably not just PHP. Maybe other languages may also be vulnerable. And if you have an API, probably, and there are many heavy-duty web services out there that take requests in JSON format. If you do not treat this with a certain protection level, it may just bring your server down. It's, well, at least not down, at least make it very slow. And I don't know. Well, right now, that's what seems to happen. I don't know if that parameter that in PHP determines the time limit of execution of a script would stop JSON decode to stay there forever. I don't know. I don't even. I'm not even sure if the problem is just at the level just in the code or the hash table implementation that would access the elements. Probably it's both. I don't know. And this needs to be analyzed by security experts that are certainly more experienced than I am. I'm just giving my opinion here. So anyway, we have discussed this extensively. So let's move on to another section of this podcast. Now, one regular section about on which you talk about the Innovation Award uh, winners and nominees. Well, since we already did that in the other recording, we are going to move on. So basically, regarding this podcast, this is it. We have covered many interesting topics, many things about the future, the security, and also the past trends. Basically, that's all. I don't know if Arthur, if you have any other comment you'd like to make.
Yeah. The one comment that Happy New Year, guys,
Yeah.
and wish you all your projects to succeed in this new year.
Yeah. Well, that's a great wish, and I would like to also wish the same for everybody. So on my behalf, that is all for now. Bye.
Bye.